On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a partridge in a pear tree. On the second day of Christmas, my true love gave to me two turtle doves and a partridge in a pear tree. On the third day of Christmas, my true love gave to me three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the fourth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me four calling birds, three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the fifth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me five golden rings, four calling birds, three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the sixth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me six geese a-laying, five golden rings, four calling birds, three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the seventh day of Christmas, my true love gave to me seven swans a-singing, six geese a-laying, five golden rings, four calling birds, three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. On the eighth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me eight maids a-milking, seven swans a-swimming, six geese a-laying, five golden rings, four calling birds, three French hens, two turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Hello, and happy holiday week before holidays. I finally remembered to turn on some Christmas carols. Thanks, Druid. So, yeah, Double T wanted to know about the turtle doves in 12 Days of Christmas. Sadly, not a weird compilation of a turtle and a dove. It's just doves, I think. I don't know why they're called turtle doves. We have our little Jill Sue here, little Christmas Jill Sue visited, and Double T has a new purse. It's quite a fine purse. It's a, I don't know, Chanel? Louis Vuitton? I don't know. So I hope you guys had a really great week. It has been crazy, I'm sure. You guys are probably feeling the pressure of the end of the year. Whether you celebrate Christmas or not, there's still that, like, end of the year nonsense. We all have to deal with New Year's and the becoming of 2026. So Yeah, I'm interested to see what 2026 has in store for us. 2025 has been interesting to say the least. And yeah, I guess I will always think of 2025 as like, I don't know, the year of AI. I don't know. There's a lot of things. The year of Labubu, 2025. So I thought today I would try to do something a little holiday oriented. And so last night I went through all of my, let me hang the Jill Sue back up. She's like my one Christmas decoration. I went through all of my Quilters newsletter magazines and I pulled out the December issues. And it's interesting. For some reason, I don't have a lot of December issues, considering I have some runs of years. And all I can think is with my mom's, the batches of ones that I have from her, because she had a subscription. So there were a few years where, I have the whole year, except the December issue. And I know for sometimes they would publish like a November, December issue, or sometimes it would be in the summer. They do a 2-month issue. But there was no point that I can tell where they didn't publish a December issue. Like I said, sometimes it was a November, December. Anyway, the best I could figure out, at least in my mom's case, was that she probably had a project in those that she was working on, that maybe she set aside like at her sewing machine or whatever. And unfortunately, my parents had some flooding in their basement. And my mom subsequently, after they got divorced, was still dealing with it. And so a bunch of stuff had to get thrown out because of flood damage. And I suspect some of her Quilters newsletter magazines were part of that. So that's where I'm going to assume the Decembers went. But also, somebody gave me some Quilters newsletters, which is the same thing, but it's from the earlier point before they became magazine. And I'm positive there's some Decembers in there, but unfortunately, they didn't have the months on those. They had the year and then an issue number. So, like, I don't know, what's issue 25? Who knows? It might be December, it might be May. But one day, I need to go through those. And I think it's the years of 71 and 72 that I have. And I need to go through and figure out, like, what month is this? But I was excited to discover I have this issue. This is December 1973. Cake's first Christmas. I was born in September. I would have been 3 months old the week of Christmas. So I thought, well, we certainly will have to see what was happening when I was a baby. And then I have a number of other issues. And what's really interesting, it's just kind of looking at because this is such a wide range from early 70s through, I think the latest one I have is 95. So from 1973 to 1995, the changes that Quilters newsletter went through was really interesting. They started the Lehmans, Bonnie Lehman, and I can't remember her husband's name, but they had a very robust quilting business. They had quilt supplies. They sold patterns and notions and even I think quilting frames and all kinds of stuff out of their warehouse in Colorado. But they also did this, and this started first, Quilters newsletter, and this was essentially one of those, lady looking for something impactful to do with her time, is kind of the best way I think to describe it. And she was, I want to say the first issues came out in 68 or 69. I'd have to look at the ones I already have and like kind of count backwards. Because I think the ones I have start at like issue 20 something, and that's 1971. So I guess that could have been, doing the math, that could have been 3 years. Yeah, that would have been about 3 years. So anyway, this one I think is funny because obviously, like, it's cut across the top. It probably, and there's a lot of space at the bottom. So this was probably like one of those printer issue that kind of things where it just came out like that. But so this is 73, but by December of 74, they had become a magazine. And this is when they were doing these weird 2-color print things. So I don't know if you can tell. This page is actually pink. I don't know. That is not coming through very well. But kind of see it was an odd printing thing, and I think it was a printing technique that had been around for a while. I've seen stuff from like the 30s and 40s that was like this. It's like this one, it's black and white with this one tone. I don't know what it's called, but they did that for a while. And then by 75, 76, 77, somewhere in there, this is 77, they are now the glossy magazine. All glossy pages, but only a few things in color. So I can't remember. I think I do have the issue, or like the second issue, where they started adding color in, because Bonnie Lehman had written a letter about it in her her editor letter. So yeah, you can see like this transition. And what gets really interesting is when you're kind of at the peak of this quilt revolution starting in 76, you can see where the magazines get beefier. So this is 80s, 87. It's like pretty beefy. It's still like the center stapled deal, but the magazine page stock has gotten nicer. It's all in color now. There's more pages, so it's interesting to see that. I think the latest ones I have a few from the 2000s, I think, and I can't remember exactly the year that they stopped publishing. I don't know if one of you guys here might know, but it was sometime in the 2000s, which is ironic because that's when, kind of this third wave of quilting came about with the Modern Quilt Guild. But anyway, I mean, I think the Lehmans were, at some point, I think Bonnie Lehman remained kind of the editor till some point, but they had sold the magazine to like one of those magazine conglomerates. I did some research a while back because I kept thinking like how cool it would be to own the rights to Quilters Newsletter magazine, and I thought, maybe that's a Kickstarter. I did research and I did find out who owns it. It's a company in Colorado, which is where the Lehmans were publishing from, and they own some other like craft titles, I think. I want to say it's like Golden Peak or something like that. It's something Coloradian. But I don't know like what their intentions are. I can't find any evidence that they have any plans to do anything with it in the near future. So Quilters Newsletter magazine did transition into one of the other quilting magazines. I think it was kind of the sort of thing where if you had a subscription, it was one of those things where you got the letter like Quilters Newsletter magazine is going to cease and we'll finish off your subscription with this other, quilting magazine. So that was kind of what happened. I obviously don't have the super good details there, but it is unfortunately no longer in print. But what I can say, if you have never picked up an issue of Quilters Newsletter magazine, keep your eyes open and look for a copy and just check it out. From the very beginning, you have people writing, and I want to say, is it this issue? Try to see. There is an issue in here. I think it's this one. Yeah. This is 1973, a full year. No, I'm sorry. A full decade before Sally Garrett started the American Quilt Study Group, which was a big deal, 1984. She's got a 2-page spread article in the 1973 Quilters Newsletter about the elusive English quilt. And so I sort of scanned this, and I'll read it if we have time. I kind of think we'll run out of time, so I'll have to read it at another time to you. But it's Avril Colby stuff. She has clearly read Avril Colby, and kind of what I'm reading in here, she met Avril Colby. Again, 73, Avril Colby had just published, I think, the quilting book we read. We haven't read her other book, but she had published this, so it's entirely probable that this is coming from an actual conversation with Avril Colby, possibly. So I was like, from like this kitchen table newsletter where we've already got like really like high level quilt scholarship. Sally Garrett was, she remains one of my heroes. She started, the American Quilt Study Group, again, from her kitchen table. You know, like these are women that didn't necessarily have advanced degrees. I think Sally went on to get her master's, you know, along the way. But, you know, these are women that, you know, they're just looking at making quilts, the culture of quilts, the history of quilts. They're looking at all this stuff, and they're very sophisticated, in my opinion, much more so. No offense to current publishers, but I gotta be honest. Some of the quilting magazines that do still remain are utter dreck. Like, you know, they're the kind of simple projects where I'm like, you can find this stuff free on the internet. And again, no offense to the designers. I know they work very hard, but they do not hold a candle to this stuff. I'm sorry to say. So without further ado, let's look at some of these, and I will read you some stuff, you know, based on time. And let's see, let me get my screens up. Okay. But I think we're probably, you know how I get, I'm chatty. We'll get through these probably. We probably won't get to reading any of the Patchwork Girl. So, okay, so Quilters Newsletter, December of 73. Take a close look at what's on the cover here. This is it's a holly leaf block, and you'll see this again. This comes back. Let's see. Do they have... Try to see if they have the info in here. Yeah, the Christmas memory. So I'll tell you what this is about. I wanted to start off by reading some of The Needle's Eye, which is the editor's letter. And this might be one of the longer things I read because, again, time. So, she starts off with, Bonnie Lehman starts off with, "Dear friends, these seem to be hard times, don't they? With shortages in commodities we are used to taking for granted." 1973. "Colorado was hit quite hard this past summer with a gasoline shortage, and many areas were without beef from time to time. Now we are told we will be low on fuel supplies this winter. One shortage which I have not seen publicized as much as others is the paper shortage. It is a very real problem, however, and is why printing prices have gone up drastically in the last few months. Some magazines and newspapers have had to temporarily cease production or cut down on the number of pages. For instance, Women's Day Needlework Ideas will not publish their November issue as planned because they could not get the paper. This issue is now planned for February. A venerable newspaper to cut down is Grit. So far, Quilters Newsletter is not affected by this shortage, except that we are paying a 50% increase in printing prices." Now, this is a 60-cent. This thing was 60 cents at the time. So I'm going to have to look back at the ones after this, so 74 and on, and see like how did the price change. Sometimes the price is on here, and I think sometimes it's not. So by 74, it was 75 cents. So, you know. Every month our printer gives us a reminder, though, that we might not get the kind of paper we need the following month. So I am informing you of the situation so you will know what is going on if sometime your issue comes to you on a different kind of paper, or the type is reduced in size somewhat so that we can get the same amount of material on fewer pages. We really don't expect this to happen and feel reasonably confident that we can continue to get the same kind of paper we have been using. But this is an unpredictable world. Who knows what may happen next? One thing you may really count on, though, is that we will do everything in our power to send you the best magazine we can every month. A few readers in certain sections of the country have written to us that the last 2 issues arrived late. It is hard to find a reason for these delays sometimes. Occasionally, a mail sack gets waylaid for some reason or another. Once in a while, we are a few days later than usual getting the mailing finished. If one of your issues is ever delayed and you begin to worry, I hope you will wait another week or 2 before writing. Chances are it is on a mail truck somewhere headed your way. If it really does fail to show up in due course, we will send you another copy. Speaking of the fuel shortage, this may be the best winter ever to work on quilts, and perhaps this will be a good year to try lap quilting if you have not already done so. Working with a puffy quilt spread on your lap may be the only way to keep warm. I recommend quilting in the lap. It is easy, quite satisfactory for simple patch quilts, and very enjoyable. Let me see. I did not read where she... Okay. A few weeks ago, I had the chance to acquire a collection of patterns and clippings about quilts from a lady who has spent years accumulating and cataloging this material. I am so pleased that Quilters newsletter now has all this wonderful quilting memorabilia to share with you. Collectors will enjoy having the chance to see articles and patterns from very old copies of Modern Priscilla, Family Circle, Woman's Home Companion, Wallace's Farmer, that was a new one to me, I'd never heard of that one, Farm Journal, the Women's World Service Library, and many more publications. The Christmas elves decorating pages 12 and 13 were adapted from a quilt advertisement in a 1934 copy of the Household magazine. And then she goes on to mention a couple of others. And then she says, best wishes for the holiday season, Bonnie Lehman. So I just thought that was like a really heartfelt letter. And I think about it, like, replace a few of the things. I mean, we're not having a gas crisis, but, you know, think of some of the other things like tariffs and earlier this year and last year with the eggs. I remember paying $9 for a dozen eggs. So the things she's talking about in 1973, I mean, more than 50 years ago, you could just replace a few of the words and it's still relevant to today. Which I don't know. Does it give you a sense of like, oh, you know, I connect to these quilters of the past more than ever? Or is it oh my God, time marches forward and things stay the same? So it's a good question. Okay. So that was Bonnie's letter. And then, you know what? I forgot to take pictures of the stuff inside this one. Okay, so before I read this, let's see. I did have this one thing to read. Okay, so Christmas memory. And you're going to see this in a minute. So Christmas memory, 1973. Longtime subscribers will remember that every year at this time, and by longtime subscribers, I mean these are people that have subscribed for a few years, because she didn't start it that long ago in 1973. Every year at this time, we tell you about our Christmas memory quilt. Christmas dreams are happier under a Christmas quilt, I believe. When I was a child, my mother made me a quilt that I slept with only during the Christmas season. Until the middle of December, it was stored on a special shelf with a sachet tucked inside. The ceremony of taking the quilt down from the shelf, smelling its fragrance. I'm wondering if it was like was it Christmas smell? I assume so, like pine trees or something like that. Smelling its fragrance and putting it on my bed was an event I looked forward to with great impatience. The first night that I was allowed to sleep under the quilt signaled the start of Christmas. That quilt and the feeling of anticipation it brought me are still one of my most cherished Christmas memories. It was remembering that quilt my mother made that gave me the idea of starting a Christmas memory quilt series. Every year we offer a special Christmas quilt pattern, which we send to all readers who wish it. Pattern collectors save these designs from year to year, and some of our readers have begun the Christmas quilt tradition with their children. This year's pattern is the holly wreath pictured on the cover. You will get the pattern by sending us a SAZY, which for you youngsters out there is a self-addressed stamped envelope. When was the last time you sent a SAZY somewhere, right? And this was a thing you did when somebody would be willing to send you something for free. Like usually it's a 1-pager, 2-pager kind of situation, like a catalog, or in this case, a pattern. You would address an envelope to them, and then inside it, you would put an envelope that's addressed to yourself and put a stamp on it. And they will open the envelope addressed to them, take out the envelope addressed to you, put the thing in it, and put it back in the mail. Isn't it amazing? It's almost like the snail version of emailing somebody a PDF. Oh my goodness. So I thought this was a really, really sweet little, like, you know, just little tradition. I mean, it's cute and it's sweet. And it kind of makes me think of, you know, some of the things that we would do when I was a child. You know, my mom always made a gingerbread house, and it was usually an absolute disaster. You know, there were always walls falling. She would also make an enormous batch of Chex snack mix, and she would clear the kitchen table off, and she would roll out I think it was wax paper back then. Today I would use parchment, but she'd roll out all of this overlapping wax paper. So the whole table's covered in wax paper. And just like for hours, she would mix up the Czech snack mix, put it in the oven to do its thing, and then dump it out on the table and spread it out to cool. And this was like, I just, in my mind, and I would sneak by and grab the Czechs as it was cooling. And one year, and so she would make it like for everybody to snack on throughout the season, but also to give it in tins to people. And especially my uncle, her brother, who really loved Chex Mix. And one year, she accidentally bought like this sweetened cinnamon Chex, and she'd made a batch of it before she realized. Like, she was just hurrying, not paying attention, dumping and measuring. And then she's like, oh my God, this is sweetened. Like, it was the sweetened like cinnamon Chex. And she's like, oh no, it's ruined. I've wasted all of these materials. And I think I remember going, let's try it anyway. I was like probably 9 or 10, and it was delicious, you guys. And then, later on you end up seeing all these Chex Mixes where they say, put sweet stuff in it and you get the sweet savory. So I will never forget that. It was so funny. And I think, she ended up giving it to my uncle and he liked it. So that was a fun memory. So yeah, I think it's all of these little memories that when you could conjure them up, you can sort of waylay like the Grinchy Scrooginess of, adulting during Christmas. So anyway, I love Bonnie's story, and it comes up in every December issue except for one. I cannot find it anywhere. Supposedly there indeed was a pattern for this one particular year. I think it's 77 or 79. I couldn't find it anywhere. So anyway, some of the other things just to point out here, let me, because I didn't take pictures of this, but I just love some of the stuff that's in here just to show you. So she had a Children of the World, like block of the month thing. So this month is the little French boy. And so you see all the other children. They're really cute. They're like the little kids from It's a Small World at Disneyland. And also what I loved in here was pot holders or hot dish mats. You can read between the lines. This is one of those, hey, last minute Christmas gift thing. Right? And honestly, like when I've been in a jam for a Christmas gift, pot holders are very often appreciated, because you think about, we use pot holders all the time if you cook, and they get burnt, they get like crusty and gross, and no amount of washing can get the yuck off them. So I'm always very pleased to have a pot holder. So I thought this was cute. Okay, so moving right along. Now we're looking at 1974. And like I said, this is that weird pink, I don't know if it's showing up a little better, but this weird pink print. And this is where I get to the point where not every issue for December has anything very Christmassy on the cover, which I think is a pretty, I haven't examined tons and tons of magazines from this time period, but I kind of feel like a lot of other magazines would have some type of holiday or winter theme on their December issue. And Quilters newsletter magazines sometimes did and sometimes didn't. This is one, well, if this stuff was in red and green, maybe, but I suspect it's not. So this one would have been kind of a departure from anything holiday oriented. Here in her Eye of the Needle newsletter, or the Needle's Eye letter, this is the block for the memory quilt for this year. And this is the only place where it's pictured, except is there? Yes, there is the Christmas story. I didn't take a picture of it, but she does have the Christmas story in here and explains you can get the pattern with the self-addressed stamped envelope. So, yeah. And let's see, is there anything else in this one I wanted to talk about? Oh, there's a good article in here. We'll have to probably read that one later as well. But this is very cool. Totally not Christmas related. I did pick a few things out of here that are not holiday oriented, but they're really cool. I wish this picture were better, but this is a letter in the Quilting Bee, which is letters from readers. And this says, Dear Bonnie, I thought you and Quilters newsletter readers might like to see the wedding cake my mother, Mrs. Eileen Murray, made for my recent wedding. My husband Brock and I are both teachers, so our ceremony was held in an old two-room schoolhouse. I made my dress and Brock's shirt and decorated both of them with patchwork triangles overlaid with hand-crocheted lace. I mean, can you get any more 1970s than that? And I just love that. You know, getting married in an old schoolhouse, and like she made the dress and his shirt. I mean, I just, how romantic and sweet. Um, my mother's cake was the finishing touch for the wedding of an avid quilt fan. She designed the wedding ring top of fabrics with sentimental value to us. They were cut from a traditional pattern and glued to curves of tagboard, which were then gently set on top of the white frosted cake. And this is Janet Brown from Wichita, Kansas. I picked up on the picture as I was flipping through right away. I was like, oh my God, that's a cake with a with a double wedding ring on top. I had kind of hoped that in some way it was, decorated with frosting, but, I think that they didn't do things like that back then. It was a little more art and crafty, but, something that was glued to just a cardboard shape that's set down. Perfectly fine. And, I bet in color it was beautiful. What a cool thing to do. And I mean, today, of course, you can go to the grocery store and they have those like sugar printers that will print that weird piece of it's like a water slide decal they just put on top of the cake. You could have something like this printed on top of a white cake. Can you imagine how cute that would be for like a guild meeting or some kind of special, like a guild anniversary or something? Oh, precious. Okay. Some of these things are so delightful. Ah! Whoops. Let me go back. Sorry about that. Okay. This is the next one. Let me put my keyboard here so it doesn't get in the way. 2026 will be a clean desk is my goal. Okay, so this one, December 1977. So this is where we're starting to see a little bit more Christmassiness inside. There's still no patterns inside though, specific to Christmas. And we see these later on. You'll find more patterns. Now that's not to say that possibly the November issue might have had a pattern, because you think about it, like if you want to make even just a few quilt blocks for the holidays, you probably aren't going to do it in December. Although many of us do try that. You're not making a Christmas quilt in December. So it makes sense to put out patterns at in a different issue. I don't know if they did that. I didn't look at the November issues. But just based on, how these went, I'm just seeing this change. So this is a very pretty quilt. It's red and green though. So now I'm wondering, okay, are they trying to get, this is a trend. They're getting some more, even though it's not a Christmas quilt, they're getting more Christmassy for this issue. I don't think so. As we'll find out going forward. Lots more non-red and green quilts have made the front of this magazine. So this is really fun. Oh, hey, Robin. I just saw that you were here. So this is really fun. I'm going to read you both of these letters, and then we'll look at both of these. One of these is made by a person I know. And again, sorry, the pictures are terrible. Her picture was probably terrible, and then reprinting it in the magazine was even more terrible. But you get the gist of this. There's a snowman. There's looks like a little gingerbread house. I'm certain a partridge in a pear tree. We've got an angel, a Christmas tree, a Santa, a gingerbread man, a candy cane, a stocking, a wreath maybe, carolers perhaps. I think this is a reindeer. I think this might be the North Star and Joseph and Mary. I can't tell what some of these other things are though. But still, very cute quilt. So let me read you this letter. Dear Bonnie, I used to ask myself, can it be too great a luxury to have a quilt that is seasonal, used only once a year? I have long anticipated making a quilt for each child, we have two, for the Christmas season. What a relief it was to read in Quilter's newsletter that you had enjoyed such a treat when you were a child. I enjoyed reading your remembrance of the ceremony your mother planned for you each December, getting out the special quilt that had been stored until Christmas time. So I set about to make a special quilt for our son Anthony. A picture of it is enclosed, and this is it. Underway presently is an applique tree being decorated in embroidered baubles for our daughter Amy. I have shown Anthony's quilt in each of my quilting classes. Several of my students have liked the idea and have started their own Christmas quilts also. To see an idea carried forth and embellished upon, as one of my students did, was especially rewarding. Her name is Mary Lou Lau. I have asked her to write and send you a picture of her quilt because I know you would agree with me that she has perfected the idea of a Christmas memory quilt. Hazel Carter. Hazel Carter! I know Hazel. She is part of one of the quilt study groups that I go to in Virginia. She's originally from Virginia. She has recently moved to, I believe, to Georgia. It's either Georgia or Florida. She is elderly at this point, but Hazel is probably most well known for starting the Quilters Hall of Fame in Indiana. She was part of the process of that the building it's in used to be Marie Webster's house. Marie Webster of quilting book and pattern fame. And I don't know all the details about how all that happened, but Hazel was instrumental in that. And you'll see her pop up if you start looking at these old magazines and any kind of old news. You'll see Hazel pop up a lot. She was very, very, very involved. So she also says, so Bonnie Lehman makes a note. I just received a note from Hazel saying she has had her patterns for this quilt printed and they're available for $3 postage paid. So at one point, you too could have gotten the patterns for this. Now, here's the second letter. And you see this one, some different stuff, but still you kind of pick out. You got the stocking. I assume a Star of David, maybe North Star, I'm not sure. Wreath, Santa, gingerbread man, tree, snowflake, candelabra. I don't know what some of this is. I don't know. Somebody on skis, maybe? I'm not sure. This one I know is the tray of cookies. She mentions this. And I think this is the bassinet that she mentions because I can't figure out anything else in this that could possibly be a bassinet. This looks like it's probably the manger, maybe the donkey. So yeah, another really cute one. So this letter goes, Dear Bonnie, my adventure with quilting began when I saw Hazel Carter in the midst of making her Christmas quilt. Although I had never quilted, I knew I had to make a Christmas quilt for our daughter who was born on December 24th. I took Hazel's class. I was so bitten by the quilting bug, I started another quilt first, a bridal wreath. My Lord, the people that are like, I've never quilted in my life, and I'm going to pick one of the most complicated quilts to make, and then they make something beautiful, and you're like, oh. I know a lot of people like that, a lot of quilters like that. When I was half finished with it, I made our son a denim quilt of old jeans for him to take to college. Throughout this time, ideas and thoughts of a Christmas quilt drifted in and out of my mind until one day I knew the time had come to start. I had seen a magnificent quilt in which the maker had done her family history in small blocks, each one telling something of her roots in embroidery. So I thought, why not a Christmas quilt about our Christmas traditions, especially special happenings that our family will remember? I decided this should be a quilt for the children to use from December 1st to January 1st, so I'll need to make 30 blocks, one for each night, so Mother could relate the story. The back would be bright red, and since I was already a Quilt As You Go fan, I would do it all by the block method. We'd examined that, especially Jill and I because we read Portable Patchwork, Pam Week's book. I finished the first half secretly and surprised my daughter Nancy the Christmas of her 22nd birthday. The second half was not as rapidly finished for her 23rd birthday as planned, but 2 months later. Each block has a special meaning. The bassinet is an exact copy of the one Nancy's aunt and grandmother made for her before she was born. The tray of cookies looks just like the same tray and the same cookies I have made for 23 years. The quilting stitches may not be the smallest, but I somehow feel the children the children who anticipate getting this quilt off the shelf each December will not be concerned about the size of the stitches. It is far more important they feel they are under a quilt filled with love. Isn't that what Christmas is all about? Mary Lou Lau. Oh gosh, that made me cry. But like that is just so cool, you know. And these are, and I don't know Mary Lou, but I know her name. I don't know if she's still at this time she lived in Rockville, Maryland, so I don't know if she's still local or not. But still, like, oh, how cool. Okay, next we have this. And this is where she's starting to show more pictures of Quilters quilts. Now, this one is not specifically said to be a memory quilt, but oh my gosh, I feel it could be. This could definitely be this, you know, ceremonial kind of fun with it, this quilt. And I think this one's so cute. So first of all, what do you see that looks very familiar? Is it the holly wreath from 1973? Indeed it is. And then this one looks like, I think, let's see, I think she said she referenced like old Christmas cards, designs, and coloring books. So you can see like this really charming Santa. I just love him. And there's like this little church, and just all of these other things, like possibly an elf, or actually two elves. You've got Santa and the reindeer. I'm just so adorable. These poinsettias are beautiful. It's like a cardinal. So this one's beautiful. And this is made by Mayadel Bolifer from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I love this. And here we see this is a block from the Christmas Memory Quilt patterns. I can't, so there's another issue that will have the date of this one, but it's very cute. You see what's happening here. That's little Santa Clauses. And I suspect this is all applique, and then the red outline is probably embroidery. Obviously. Ah! Oh no! I'm sorry! Thank you, Truid and Robin. I forgot. Oh goodness. Okay. Let me go back here. Did you guys see these? I think you didn't. Okay. So this is Hazel Carter's quilt. Very cute. I named all these things on it. And this is Mary Lou Lau's quilt. And you see, I love this. She had prairie points around the edges. Very cute. It's like her third quilt she's made. And then this is the quilt that has that holly wreath from the 1973 issue. So I just love this. And here's the Santa block. So this one's interesting. And again, I don't know which year this is. I think it's labeled in another issue, subsequent issue. Again, pretty sure it's applique, and it's not square. So to me, I'm kind of like, I don't know how you would necessarily use this in a quilt with all the other blocks. You'd have to do some kind of maneuvering, because this isn't square. So it would be really interesting to me. Can you guys see me now? Is this working? Okay. I think. Okay, I can see this. So let me know if things have not changed. I shouldn't have gone back to myself to hold something else. Okay, cool. Thanks, Robin. Sorry, guys. Sometimes I'm a ding dong, and then I haven't been watching the chat as I should. The pictures of these are so bad. It's really hard to see anything, but I just thought I'd include this. This is the facing page. These again are more of these Christmas quilts. I don't think that any of these specifically say Christmas memory. They're just, you know, people that are like, hey, I'm making a Christmas quilt. Yeah. This one up here is based on, let's see, Christmas Seal Memories Quilt by Nancy Rashka. And to me, this looks very familiar. If you remember Christmas seals, it was usually, there are all the different charities that would come out with like little, like lick and stick stickers. My grandmother always, always the Heart Association. I think my grandmother would always get theirs, and I think she and my grandfather donated to them. So you'd get these stickers, but this looks so familiar. Like I know I've seen this before. These type of little images with the Santa sleigh. Okay, moving right along to the next one. So now we're in 1979. Cake is 6. Now with this one, unless you count the sort of reddish border, this does not look anything like a holiday or Christmas quilt to me. It is a beautiful, beautiful album quilt. Of all of, this is a stunning album quilt, in fact. I've actually know somebody who has done extensive research on this device. This border, it's an urn or a vase, and then you've got the flowers coming out of it as a border. I know somebody that has done extensive research into this, and I've seen a ton of quilts that use this. Some are medallion quilts where there's something in the middle, like all completely different. So I was excited to see this one, but again, it's not really Christmassy. And then you can see all this beautiful quilting in here. Okay. So now we're getting more. This is a feature now. Readers sharing their Christmas quilts. Let's see. So we see this sort of, I guess this is like a living room or something. That is the weirdest tree I have ever seen. This strikes me as a tree that was enormous, that somebody shaved it down to get it into their room, but the base of it is still enormous. It is the strangest looking tree. And at first I was kind of like, is the picture like the aspect ratio of the picture off? No, it's just a really short, fat tree, but I like it. And then there's this white cathedral windows, ornaments, and then looks like a quilted piece. I don't think this is cathedral windows behind it. I think this is a quilted piece that's just quilted to look like that. But these two are cathedral windows ornaments. And then on the facing side, we have more Christmas quilts. Cute, cute Frosty. And then this one is the little kid laying on his Christmas memory quilt. And I thought this was so cute. Looks like a really fun quilt. And then this doesn't strike me so much as a holiday quilt, but I think from what I've read here in this letter, these people had a pine farm. And so I'm guessing these are like, it's a Christmas tree farm, I think. You've got the pine trees on the border, and then this is the pine, what would you call it? The pine forest, the trees, like the pine orchard. And then you've got other trees here. So I suspected maybe that's what this is. So it kind of falls into this category. Now this is fun. These 2 pages that I'm getting ready to show you are probably the only holiday quilts that I would make out of all of these patterns. I think Christmas imagery is cute, and I love the idea of making the Christmas quilt as a special thing for the family. But Christmas quilts just do not jazz me up. But this is pretty cool. And I gotta be honest, I'd do it English paper piecing style. And so this looks like it's intended to be a runner. But then there's, these other versions of how you could put this together, diamonds and the hexes to make it sort of like it's like a Star of David / holly leaves / berries. But I really like the wreath one. I think the wreath one's really pretty. And this on the facing page, wow, I took that crooked. There's like another version, and this is kind of like, I don't, they almost look like pillars in between with these 6-pointed stars. And then this is yet another version of this using these pieces. I'm pretty sure all of this explains it as this complicated piecing. Like you're piecing all of these bits together, and that's a little bit scary. You know, so I kind of wondered how did people feel about this particular and at the risk of not putting my screen back correctly, let me show you what I did not take a picture of. This is the pattern page. This is a very complicated looking pattern page. So I'm kind of curious to know, like, you know, did they get any feedback about this? Like, hey, Quilters Newsletter Magazine, that was really complicated. You know, I imagine that there are readers of this magazine, obviously, that are longtime quilters and would have been excited about something like this that's more complex. You know, whereas there are other people that are probably like picking this magazine up as like, I've never made a quilt in my life and I want some inspiration, right? Yeah, Robin, it does look a bit complicated, but I feel like this would be a fun one. Yeah. It's probably one of those things like I would get a wreath made and then just be like, ugh. But I think it would be cool to pick out like really cute Christmas fabrics to do this. So, all right. Moving right along. We're moving at a good clip. I might be able to go back and read you some of the other stuff that, although we do pick up with the imagery that I've taken pictures of. Okay, so now we are in 1982. And here we have another full-blown Christmas pattern in the Christmas issue, or the December issue. Marissa's Christmas Tree and Star. And yeah, I mean, this one, it's a perfectly nice pattern. Those triangles would drive me crazy. There's a lot of them. That's, I mean, essentially that's, could be the pine tree. It could be ocean waves. There's a bunch of different settings that this could be. I know Robin said that the wreaths from the previous issue look complicated. To me, this is complicated, just because of the accuracy in this piecing. Whereas that other one, I would have just done that as English paper piecing. So the accuracy is kind of done for you. If you're, you know, you've had some experience with paper piecing. I still think this is really pretty. And the facing page has some kind of cute quilting designs. There's like a holly and a little bow kind of thing. These, they go in here, these little spots. This looks much easier. Okay, so this, uh-oh, is this locked up? Oh, there we go. Okay. So this was an article called American Country Christmas, and I'm not going to read it, but we'll look at the pictures. And I think this article is very interesting because of who wrote it. And this was written by Eleanor Hamilton Sienkiewicz, otherwise known as Ellie Sienkiewicz. She is like the preeminent English paper piecing, or not English paper piece, what am I saying? Baltimore album. She's the preeminent Baltimore album designer, teacher, etc. She has published a whole bunch of books on kind of the history and the techniques that you could use in making your own Baltimore album quilt. And like the high style stuff, the really complex stuff. So it's so interesting to see this, and it, you know, it looks like it's possibly pictures from her house. I think so. Yeah. And these are quilts that are just, I would not have associated these quilts with her because again, like what I know of her is Baltimore album. But look at this. This looks like almost like like paper cutting, because you've got these roots and then this like pretty complex sort of tree, and then along the sides you have this reindeer. Um, very cute. And I don't know, is that a baby reindeer underneath? I'm not sure. But what an interesting, what an interesting looking quilt, or wall hanging. And like again, like this stuff, I certainly say, oh, 1980s for sure, but a very different than what the other kind of work that Ellie Sienkiewicz is known for. I think this is cool. And it looks like she's got some little mini blocks on this tree. And we will see mini blocks in another issue. This stuffed wreath, I actually have a kit to make. I don't think it's this particular one, but it's something similar. Very popular, late 70s, early 80s. You see patterns for this in the magazine. And then, of course, we've got these cute angel dolls and things. I just think overall this is really charming, considering it's the 80s. And I mean, I have obviously that sense of, nostalgia for the 80s. I still don't totally love everything that came out of the 80s. And look at this horse. This is like the Dalek horse from like Swedish. I think it's Swedish, right? That's kind of an image that is common in like Christmas ornaments and things. Looks like she's made multiple of these wreaths, because there's two of them in here, and then there's the big wall hanging. So very cool. Okay. Oh, look, Quilters Newsletter Magazine is going to show us, where is it? Some more holiday quilts, and we are starting to get some Hanukkah. And, this is the kind of thing, few and far between. I feel sorry for people of the Jewish faith, because this time of year, often Hanukkah is very close to Christmas, and you'll just see some like blue and silver or blue and gold stuff kind of thrown in the corner of the Christmas stuff. It's especially an issue here where I live, because we have a pretty large population of Reform Jews and Orthodox. Now, the Orthodox folks don't necessarily like shop for things, but I certainly know lots of, I guess they're the sort of like they go to temple for the high holidays, kind of like Catholics who go to mass on Christmas and Easter. But they still have faith in their religion, and they certainly like to have things, decorations that are like this. So I think it's nice that there's at least one wall hanging with the candelabra, and just looks like the dreidel. So the menorah and the dreidel. But this is very pretty. This looks like it's a North Star. And then this is like kind of one of the memory quilts. And then this one's really interesting because of this garden maze setting. This kind of looks like something like this is a master quilter kind of deal here. Because that's kind of a technically tough setting to do. But very pretty. And oh, look what we have. Christmas memories. Now she's starting to label them. So this was from the 1980 magazine, or the 1980 send off for it. This one was from 81. They're both very cute. Again, notice that they're not squares. At least these aren't. So these, I don't know. I not having one of the patterns in hand, I don't know. Obviously the instructions would be very similar to any of the instructions that we've seen in Quilters Newsletter Magazine, but what is the other information? Are they saying like these are full bed size quilts? Are they saying these are placemats, wall hangings? I don't know. It's really hard to tell the size of these. All right. So moving right along. Now we have 1983. Now we've kind of gotten back to a little red and green, but still I would not say this is particularly Christmassy. It's got the gold in there. That says more about the type of quilt and the place it was made than the time period it was made for. But yeah, this is kind of this is a beautiful quilt. You know, that's all I have to say. Okay, now we've got some cute patchworky type ornaments and little gifty things. I really liked this. You know, we're getting into, you know, the kind of things, you know, I think if you got your, so, and this is a November, December issue, by the way, it's a 2-month issue. So presuming it went out in November, this is the kind of stuff I think people could definitely get made before Christmas. So, you know, I kind of wonder if this is sort of a, you know, an opportunity to add, you know, more products and patterns in here. It looks like there's a pattern for these two. This wreath and the angel. And then the cathedral windows ornament. There's a pattern for that. And then there's a pattern for this. So I think that these are like little notebook or little sewing roll kind of things. And so I think the pattern is for this one, and you could just make these other ones based on that. Now I didn't take a picture, but the drafting for this wreath, it's one of those, I gotta show you. I can't even describe it. It's one of those, like, we're showing it to you on a grid, so you're gonna have to draft this yourself. But look, it's cut into 5 different segments for you to figure out. And you have to upsize them yourself. Might be hard to tell, but there is a grid there. So thank goodness that we can take these things to the copy shop now, or just use your scanner and printer to make these things. I mean, think about how hard this was back then. I mean, I think I would have looked at that and said, oh, I want to make that, you know, make that wreath thing as a wall hanging, or, you know, maybe a gift or something. And then I would look at this pattern and go, oh, there's no way I'm going to try and draft that. Also, it's called Autumn Harvest. So this is actually more of like a Thanksgiving type of wreath. And, look what we're going to get to. The memory quilt. So now look what she's done here, or they. I should say they, because it's not all Bonnie. But you've got your dates in here now, again. So we've got 80 and 81 that we've seen. But now look, the colors change here for the Santa Clauses. The Santas have like this green now. Before they had white. And their faces are pink. So they've recolored this to make it look different. And then you have the 1973 holly leaves. Oh yeah, right, Robin. I know, and I think we've talked to you about this before, because you've said that before, like those grid things. You know, I always looked at, like, even when I was a child, I would see things that I would want, like patterns and crafty things I would want to do, and when they had that, because you're looking at like each little square and you're like, okay, it's got like a curved line there, and then I go down to the next square and it's like, okay, that's a diagonal line there. And they end up looking super wonky if you're not good at it. So yeah, I do often wonder, you know, what happened to some of these things. Did anybody ever make them? So, okay. But it is interesting to me how these have changed up some. And they're showing 4 of them. And at this point, I think it's a little earlier than this, but she starts to say, I don't think I got it in this picture, but she starts to say, you can, oh, here it is. You can order these for all these years. So she started in 1970 with this Christmas memory, going all the way through. You can order these. So $6 for all 13. I believe the next one might be $7 for all 14 at that point. So, and it's really cool to me that they did this. They kept this going because, I mean, I think of so many magazines and things I've seen where, you know, they'll start off with like, oh, look at this annual thing we're doing. And they do it maybe for a couple years and then it kind of dies off because, you know, there's a new editor or, you know, maybe it just marketing wise, it didn't get a lot of traction. But, you know, the Lehmans were in charge of this magazine for a very long time. And, you know, this was something that was important to Bonnie for the holiday season. So, I think it's pretty cool that, you know, they kept this up for a long time. I bet you anything when the magazine publishers took over, I bet they stopped doing it. All right. Now we've got a Christmassy thing on the cover. This is 1987. Now we're getting to a point where as I flip through, I'm going like, oh, I know that person. Oh my gosh, I know that person. Oh, there's that book. I have these books. So this is a point in time where, you know, it's getting closer to the time when, you know, I was finally sparked into enjoying quilting. My mother tried for a very long time and I was like, oh, heck no. And then eventually I came around. Who doesn't love a house quilt, first of all? I love a house quilt. But these are scrappy houses. And this really interesting is it's random. Or maybe it's not. Is it? It seems random to me that we've got the ones that switch where the chimney switch, you know, the house turns, it switches sides. Yeah, there's none in these 3 rows. And then there's one there, one there. Is that it? Yeah. It's so strange to me. And so I kind of wonder, like, was this a mistake? You know, did she turn the parallelogram? Like, did she cut the parallelogram wrong? Or is this, you know, I don't know. I didn't read the specifics on this quilt, but is this one of those like, yes. Okay, let me read this real quick. So on the cover, To a Friend's House, 72 by 72 inches, 1986, designed by Kay Reingens and Beverly Packard, made by the So Crazy Quilters, a friendship group within the Orange County Quilters Guild of California. And then it lists all of the members. I don't think I see any names I recognize. But it's, let's see, the quilt was made for the Orange County Quilt Guild's 1987 show as an opportunity quilt to benefit the American Quilt Research Center in the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. So more than $2,100 was donated to the center's acquisition fund from monies raised by selling tickets for a drawing held last April. So, okay, then I guess this is a situation where each of the members made a block and 2 of them reversed it. But really, I mean, why does it matter? It doesn't. This is just so charming. And, you know, and then, you know, these little pine trees, pine trees and hearts around it. Very cute. Okay. I mentioned miniatures, right? So this is a whole spread on miniature quilts on trees, or miniature quilts as ornaments. I think I only took a picture of this page because the other page was getting into some like not very holiday stuff. But this is cute. And I mean, look, it's like a string has been wound around the tree, and then all of the little quilts have been like clothespin to it. Is that not charming? Oh my gosh. And then look at the little angel at the top is a little stitched angel. I think my mom has something like this. Very cute. But oh my gosh, look at it. It's so adorable. You know, I'm kind of wondering if you kind of see these little sparkly white. I wonder if that's like fake snow, or is it icicles, or is it baby's breath. I know I've seen trees with that tucked in to look like snow. I don't know, but it's cute. I love it. Now, this is something I would take some time throughout the year to make some tiny little Christmas ornament quilts for sure. That would be fun. This was interesting when I found it. So let me flip to the page. So these are quilts by Kumiko Sudo. And she should be familiar to you if you have been watching modernish quilts for a while. She is a very well-known Japanese quilter. She lives in the United States. She's put out a ton of books. And most of the quilts in her books are very different than these. They have sort of a different color palette. She does a lot of sort of these earthy, neutral tones. She does a lot of like those low, oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? The low value quilts, where it's really just a quilt that's kind of a lot of gray and beige and off-white and, maybe brown. And but they're very beautiful. And, they definitely have that like Japanese aesthetic. These were different though. So I've got a couple pictures of the pages. So what this says is, Quilters Newsletter Magazine collects slides of unusual and notable quilts so that every month we can have a special quilt show for our readers. This month we present religious quilts made by Kumiko Sudo of San Jose, California. These quilts were included in a book of quilts based on 20 stories from the Bible and published in Japan. And then they say more of Kumiko's quilts can be seen on another page. So this one, let me see if I can zoom in. So this one at the top is David. This one is Holy Night. So we can assume this is Jesus in the manger. This one is Exodus. So see Moses and the little bassinet. This center one is called Resurrection, and I have a better picture of it. Come on. All right, there we go. So we'll look at this in a sec. So that one's called Resurrection. This one at the top is called Three Kings. And look at this. It's not a straight bottom. It's got these quilt blocks across the bottom. How interesting, right? And I kind of feel like this sort of color palette is closer to what her later quilts look like. This one is called Mosque. And I mean, it's a mosque, and it's got some Arabic writing here. I don't know that we know what this says. I don't see anywhere where she's got that listed what this says, but it's striking nonetheless. And then here's Exodus in the middle. I'm sorry, Resurrection. This is Resurrection. So I can't remember what this is called, but I know it's a symbol of Christ. And you just have this, like, I'm guessing obviously like a sky heavenward kind of thing going on. You've got quilt like little blocks up here, and then this beautiful sort of wreath-like thing. You've got the Alpha and the Omega. Just a really striking quilt. And it, this backing fabric, the background, it looks like it's streams of light. And so I'm wondering if it was painted or if she did some type of dye technique. 1987, it was kind of a time when, quilters were getting into dyeing their own fabrics throughout the 80s. So kind of wondering if that's what this is. Like perhaps she painted or, did some dye work with this. But it was so interesting as I looked at these, I was like, oh, these are all different religions, religious stuff. And, it's not all just like Christianity here. Oh, and there's more here. So it says Kumiko uses both traditional patterns and her own designs, many times combining the two. She says a full-scale preliminary design is a must, especially since major changes cannot easily be made in patchwork. Usually I trace my design on white cotton. Then I lay fabrics piece by piece, sometimes overlaying on top of other pieces to create depth and illusion. Then I hand applique with blind stitches. Quite often, I use Japanese embroidery techniques to emphasize certain parts. I find it necessary as the work develops to reassess the values and color and to make occasional adjustments. The fun part comes at the end when I set the work aside for a few days and occasionally return to it for a fresh viewpoint, making minor changes as needed. So I also like that, learning about her process. Pretty cool. So, very neat. Here, now, because I've kind of had a big skip from 1983 to 1987, I'm missing issues of the 80s and the early 80s. It looks like, I don't think I saw this. No, I take that back. The one spread where Robin said that looks too complicated, but I said I would make it as English paper piecing. That was their modern quilting feature. And it's funny because you're like, I would not call that modern quilting today. But this one I would. And the reason why is because it is based on this drunkard's path shapes. And this is something that you'll see, and of course not necessarily the Christmas aspect of it, but this is something you will definitely see people doing in modern quilting today, where they will take a traditional design, and drunkard's path is a very common one I see, and they will find ways to put it together and, put it in a setting and using colors to adapt it for things like this. I very recently saw a number of quilts that did this and made recently. So I thought this was pretty cool, where she's made, the shapes create, and I mean, you can see as you look in here, all these little blocks, are just the drunkard's path, and just depending on how she turned them and what fabrics she used in each one, create these holly leaves and all these different shapes. So pretty neat, huh? Like, yeah. It's not necessarily my aesthetic, but I think this was a really cool, cool design, and certainly at the time probably considered very modern. I loved this. So, throughout the issues, I read you the part where she said that she had, or Bonnie had acquired, she'd acquired somebody's ephemera collection, and I guarantee you that's where this comes from. And so throughout, there's been little bits and pieces of things you'll see. I think the section, they call it scrapbook or something. And it'll usually just be like a little thing, like a little advertisement or some kind of little picture or whatever. This is the whole cover of the December 1934 issue of the Home Arts magazine. And I just love this picture. This is giving me probably Civil War era vibes. And it's clearly Christmas because of this wreath. And this lady's making this lovely log cabin. And this child is, as he should, admiring it. But what a charming picture. I just love this. Oh, Christmas Memories 1987. We're still showing these ones from 1980 and 1981 and 73. And she's not putting in the other ones. And so I'm kind of like, I guess it's supposed to be a surprise. And it was, like kind of like you had to send the self-addressed stamped envelope to get it and find out what it was. So I'm very curious to know if there's anyone out there that collected these. I'd be so curious to know, because honestly, these trees, I mean, the holly one is very lovely. These trees are fun. The Santa one, oh my gosh, I love the Santa one. As I was looking at it last night, I thought, from an applique standpoint, not too hard to draft. If I can't find it where I could buy it somewhere or borrow it from somebody, I might just draft it on my own. Because that's really, really cute. I would love to make something, like placemats or something for somebody out of that. Alrighty, now we're moving on. Kind of red and green, kind of not. Just still another beautiful quilt. This one's got this very Pennsylvania Dutchy kind of attitude with the tulips, although I don't know that I would say this is from Pennsylvania necessarily. Let us see if she says. Sometimes, let's see, on the cover, tulip tree. 1850 to 1860, made by Eliza Warren Brown. She was born in Ohio in 1817, and she lived most of her married life in Mercer County, Illinois, where 7 of her 10 children survived to adulthood. She died in Los Angeles in 1889, and her great-great-granddaughter is the present owner of the quilt. So this is back in 89. It was chosen for a traveling exhibit entitled Ho for California, scheduled to begin in November. Ho for California was a book written by Jean Ray Laurie, or put together by Jean Ray Laurie, for the California Heritage Quilt Project. And one of my friends is the current president of the California Heritage Quilt Project. So, again, this is like a walkthrough, in some cases, my friends, and also a walk through my heroes in looking at these. So, very fun. Well, what do we have here? This, get to the page. Where are you? This is the point when the magazine is getting pretty beefy. Nope, not that. All right, what page are you on? Here we go. This is called the Victorian, or the article is called Victorian Album Quilts. And there's a particular block on this one that's important. And this article is written by Ellie Sienkiewicz. So now we see her, writing about and getting into essentially what was her, what became what she was known for. I love this because she does mention Dr. William Rush Dunton and his work. There was kind of a story told to me one time about Ellie Sienkiewicz looking at Dr. Dunton's collection and possibly surreptitiously making copies of things. At one time, the library archivist was not very helpful in getting people in to look at that, to look at the collection. And they, of course, nobody had cell phones and back then. And so, you couldn't just snap pictures. And they would be weird about, and rightly so, about you just pulling something out and running over to a copy machine, because it's not necessarily good for, to take a scrapbook that's falling apart and put it down on a copy machine. You have to be careful with these things and make sure they're conservatively and archivally handled. So anyway, I always thought that was funny that, they were kind of being stingy, and she performed a caper. So I think Ellie lives out in like Wyoming or Montana now. For a very, very long time, she lived in the Washington, D.C. area, and my mom was able to take classes from her. So what is important in here is the Christmas cactus. And that's this right here. I think this particular quilt has a whole bunch of other specifics. So let's see. This is called The Ladies of Baltimore, 1985 to 1988. The blocks in this quilt were the result of a contest based on classic Baltimore album quilt patterns from Ellie Sienkiewicz's first book, Spoken Without a Word. The quilt's border was appliqued by Agnes Cook, and it was quilted by Virginia Lemasters of Marietta, Ohio, and Carol White of Dunellen, Florida. So this is a modern quilt, or a contemporary quilt, but definitely made in the sort of the mid-range style of Baltimore album quilts, or the high style. I still get confused about like what's the high style, but very, very cool, and just so beautiful. And many of these designs you see are definitely taken from actual old Baltimore album quilts that Ellie studied and drafted patterns based on them. You could definitely see these kind of things in all of her books. And here's the pattern. I loved this. You know, she offered the pattern, in the magazine specifically for this. Obviously, if you want to do the other ones, you'd have to either buy her books or take a class from her to learn this. But it shows how you fold it to cut the Christmas cactus. And then she shows, making all these little snips to do your applique, and the needle turn. This is not super easy, I will tell you. I applique a lot, and when you get into these like really tight curves and points are they're a little tricky. I learned some techniques that kind of get your points a little better, but point after point after point is kind of challenging. And so to have to snip all of this, oh lordy. But you got to do it. Yeah, you got to do it. So this one's fun. I would make this block. And I mean, as a side note to the Christmas cactus, my mother-in-law had a Christmas cactus, and for years and years and years and years, and of course it never bloomed. And a few years ago, it was before the pandemic, she moved it into the bathroom, and it literally sits on the back of the toilet. And apparently it is the perfect like climate for it, and that there's a window up above, and it just gets the right amount of light. And it has bloomed every year since. And over the summer, it was looking bedraggled, and I happened to be there. And as you know, my mother-in-law passed away last year. I was looking at it and I thought, oh, it's not going to bloom again. It's, it's all bedraggled looking. So I deadheaded it, which is pinching off all of the old crusty blooms. And when I was there for Thanksgiving, it was starting to bloom again. So, I will always think of my mother-in-law when I see a Christmas cactus. And yeah, and I feel like hopefully she's looking down on us and, giving the cactus a little zap so it'll bloom. Okay. Oh, look. Christmas memory, 1989. And now look at this. The Santas have changed again. So we've got this yellowish background, and then we've got a big border on it. The trees, I think, look the same. I think maybe this has changed a little. Maybe it wasn't a print earlier, but it's just funny to me, how they keep zhuzhing these to change them. And this quilt, not Christmassy at all, but it's in this issue, and I was like, what? This quilter made this quilt to resemble a sheet of postage stamps. This sheet of postage stamps does not exist, but each of these stamps does. So this maker, they say, let's see, this is Lene Fry of Northbrook, Illinois. And she says, Dear Bonnie, in Quilters Newsletter Magazine's last issue, there were a few quilts depicting stamps and stamps depicting quilts. Although I am not a stamp collector, the idea of stamps intrigues me. I made a quilt I named Commemorative Cover as an entry for the Great American Quilt Contest in 1986, which we have also looked at a very long time ago. And I chose the particular stamps because they portrayed freedom, liberty, and our American heritage. Going down in each of the 4 rows, the stamps represent the following: the Bill of Rights, freedom of the press, American bicentennial, Indian Chief Joseph, the second column, Statue of Liberty, World Refugee Year, professional baseball, Alliance for Progress, which I don't know what that is. Do you guys know? Have you heard? I mean, obviously, if there was a stamp made, it was a thing, obviously, but I have never heard of the Alliance for Progress. It was a 5-cent stamp, so I don't know. So Alliance for Progress, the International Women's Year, and Energy Development. Column 3 is Love, Peace on Earth, which would be the Christmas aspect. Project Mercury, which I think was what we sent that was a satellite kind of thing up in the I don't know where it was going. Was it going to Mercury? I don't know. That I do remember when that they were talking about that. I lost my place. Project Mercury, Wildlife Conservation, Emancipation Proclamation, Parent Teacher Association, and column 4, Peace Corps, American Legion, CARE, which I don't know what that is either. I'm sure that's an acronym, and I'm guessing it was probably some kind of global or international thing. And finally, Food for Peace. So yeah, I just thought this was so cool. And then look how she's even got like the color, I don't know, it's like that spot check of the colors. That you would see this on sheets of stamps. And then this little thing up in the corner looks like a little postman. And it says use correct zip code. It's so adorable. And I would imagine that each of these, what are supposed to be the perforation, is probably a circle. And I don't know if these are appliqued. You know, I'm assuming. But look how detailed these are. And I just, like, even if this was, you know, raw edge applique or whatever, it is still a really amazing quilt. I have nothing bad to say about this. I would love to see this quilt in person. Yeah, so anywho, I'd love to know where it is now. Oh, here, I didn't finish the letter. So she says, I used applique, embroidery, and stenciling, so there is some of this is painted, to create the designs, and quilted into the white margin the words from Emma Lazarus's favorite poem. From her beacon hand flows worldwide welcome. I hope other QNM readers will find it of interest. Lene Fry. Yes, Lene, you are amazing. And I do find it interesting. All right. And now we're at the last one. And looks like I will have some time to read a couple of the articles I wanted to read to you. So first, when I looked at this one, I was like, At first I thought these were poinsettias, but now I'm not sure. What is this? But I looked at the quilt on the cover blurb that she puts in here. And these are indeed poinsettias. So let me read this. Kauai, Christmas Greetings, 78 by 86 by Monica Calvert of Rockland, California. We have seen Monica's name before. I can't remember where, but I think she might have been one of the winners of the Liberty, the Statue of Liberty. I want to say that was 86. That was the anniversary of the Statue of Liberty. That was the one Paula Nadelstern and Marianne Fonz won their, I think yeah, they won for their states. I'm trying to think now. Is that 86? I could be wrong about the date. But anyway, we've seen Monica Calvert's name before. So it's machine pieced and hand and machine quilted. Oh, and by the way, this is 1995. This is the year I got married. This is the year I graduated from college and got married. Okay, so Monica made this Christmas quilt to commemorate the short time in 1980 that she lived in Kauai, Hawaii. She says most people, when they think of poinsettias, are thinking of the ones you buy at the supermarket. But the poinsettias in Hawaii are the huge, double, shaggy-headed variety that grow as tall as a house. So this is some version of poinsettias that are apparently enormous. I didn't take the time to look them up online, but check them out. I mean, I guess that they're really interesting looking. As big as a house. I mean, can you imagine? As a teacher and lecturer, Monica is well known for her innovative machine piecing, especially of heart and clamshell designs. She works from full-size drawings, cut apart and used as templates. So yeah, this is indeed a Hawaiian, but and not Hawaiian style quilt, but a Hawaiian Christmas quilt. Um, and so you've got the rainbow, and I'm assuming North Star, and then the poinsettias. So really, really interesting quilt. I mean, I think it's really fascinating. And I think, I mean, it's big. It's 78 by 86. I mean, it is a bed-sized quilt, a small, a small bed-sized quilt. But she goes outside the margins here, off the edges of the quilt with these bits of leaves, which make this even more interesting. Okay. I didn't show any ads this time. I know we sometimes look at the ads in Quilters Newsletter magazine, but I could not help this one. If you know, you know, Debbie Mom was everywhere, all over literally everything. So she was coming out with the Christmas books, just like Martha Stewart was at the time. And, she's got a very specific look with her stuff. And it's, country this, country that. Um, this is the stuff of, and it's, I would say the first time I ever saw these, I thought, I was an early adulthood. I think I thought, oh, this stuff is so cute, but then after you see it 8,000 times in one season, you're like, I never want to see this shit again. So no offense, Debbie Mom, but I really got sick of your stuff. Although some of these things are very cute. Like these nutcrackers are adorable. I love that. I could imagine doing that in some more contemporary fabrics, and that would be adorable. Her Santa Clauses are very specifically Debbie Mom looking. And a lot of these other little things like the hand with the heart was very common with her stuff. So yeah, she's got the Longaberger basket here. This is like so time and place, right? So I love it. I do love her sweater, by the way. She's got a very cool sweater on. Okay. Christmas Waltz. If not for the title, I don't think I would have initially thought of this as particularly Christmassy, because even though it is quote unquote red and green, it's this dark wine colored red and then this almost teal green, which I think is a really interesting way to, like, if you're sick of red and green, do it in these colors. And, it takes on a very different kind of look. And what's interesting is this is made by a man. Let's see, what is his name? I can't remember. Keith Domer or Dahmer. And so it has a very masculine kind of look about it. And, I know, especially at this time period, in the 90s, and probably in the 80s too, people were really looking for, fabrics and designs that were not so feminine, in order to make, something for men, for male relatives and other people that they'd want to give to. And so, I mean, I guess that there was probably a trend at some point, and I don't know solidly when it is, but, I'm thinking, like, even since I've been quilting, some of the different, designers who are men, fabric designers, like the guy that did the grunge stuff. And he did some other stuff, and I'm blanking on his name. His wife is also a designer. And so they will do these more like muted, sort of, again, male centric kind of color schemes and things. And I think this was very popular for people that, again, did, wanted to give a quilt, but didn't want it to be like a bunch of flowers. And, yeah, so that's interesting. And I've never heard of Keith Dahmer, but, I liked his quilt. Oh, Robin says, my neighbor and I sure did a whole lot of Debbie Mum patterns and sold them at yard sales. Did you do cross stitch patterns, or were they quilt patterns, or were they other types of stuff? I know, gosh, Debbie Mum, I don't remember ever seeing knitting patterns, but I do know Debbie Mom was especially like, Halloween. I think there was Halloween stuff too, that like country country look Halloween. Um, I want to say there were some geese that showed up in her stuff. Sunflowers seem to come to mind. I don't know. I mean, I know I'm sitting here being, kind of nasty, but um, it's not my aesthetic. At one time it kind of was, I guess, but yeah, it's not my aesthetic. But yeah, she made a lot of money. People loved that look at this time. So I say more power to her. People liked what you were doing. But I would say that they're probably a tough sell today. I'm guessing that Mercari and PVO and some of those other places are probably full of Debbie Mom stuff. This is the quilting design for this Christmas waltz. I liked this because it's a snowflake. And you would not have guessed that just looking at it, that there would be a snowflake design in this. So it was a very effective quilt. So here we get into, again, more of the readers quilts, holiday quilts. Let me find the page that this is on. This is a spread. So, in looking at these, I would have said these look kind of more like rustic, like cabin, cabin in the woods kind of stuff. And I mean, I think they really are. But I still think they're kind of showing them as, and it's like a quilt as you go, or a block of the month kind of thing. Yeah, this must have kind of been an early time when, the block of the month is not necessarily a block. You see lots of things like this today where it'll be like, you'll create, sort of strips of stuff and it'll come together as a border or something. I really like this one. I think this is really cute. I don't love the palette. Again, it's the palette of the time. I would make this with, different fabrics, but, just what it's got in it is pretty neat. There's reindeer. It's a starry night. There's trees. This one I think is even really less so. This is quite Native American, I think. Here you've got a canoe. You've got the teepees, and it's the same. I think it's the same quilt, isn't it? Yeah, this is the same quilt. It's just some of the layouts are different. Yeah, you could see those are the same mountains. This is the same with the reindeer and the trees, but the fish and these other animals have been applied differently. So, yeah. So Robin says, so Debbie Mom, we did a lot of her country look stuff, lots of Halloween and some holiday. Lots of it was done on wood or with paper bags, some with fabrics. Yeah. I think she did, she kind of appealed to that. Like you still want to make things that are like kind of, they have that kind of like sort of primitive, antique-y country feel. But it was, there was like the crafty aspects of it. Like some of it you could do like using fusible web and, raw edge applique kind of stuff with the blanket stitch. It was very, I think it was very like a primitive kind of country look. And so here's the facing page, and this is a pattern. And my gosh, we are in 1995 and we still have this situation going on. Or you have to scale this up. This is the kind of thing where I would have been like, you could put this in where you could tape it together or have a fold out or something. Like, why are we still doing this? 95, you could take it to a copy shop, definitely. But it's cute. It is adorable. And then, look at these little stockings. So I think this was kind of an effective way, and I see this kind of thing also, much like the Ellie Sienkiewicz Christmas cactus, like she gave you that one block that you could do. This appears to be the same kind of thing. Like this is a like a block or piece of the month quilt, but you could pull things off of it and make your own designs. And applique is very forgiving that way. You can pull different pieces and reconfigure them however you want, or pull pieces off to use in a little project like this. I love doing stuff like that because, you get the sort of like bang for your buck. You've got a lot of different ways to use the elements in a pattern. This is where we get into something very interesting. Looky here. No sew Christmas ornaments, and look who they're designed by. These are W1 patterns. There's our Christmas goose. And a little frosty, little train, a stocking, a drum, a candy cane. And this is using fusible web. And so this is the time period, I guess. Again, I had made a quilt when I was in high school. I'd actually made two. I made one in high school, one in college. And I had done some smaller quilted pieces, but I wasn't doing a whole lot until a little later. So, this using fusible web is a little bit more later to me, when I was using it. But I'm wondering, is this the time period? And and is Debbie Mom one of the kind of the leaders in utilizing these fusible webs at this time? I could be wrong. Fusible web may have come long before this. I just don't know. But this is definitely, absolutely meant for the people that are like, crap, I got to make something and it's a week before Christmas. So Debbie Mum to the rescue. You can make these fusible web ornaments. And then here is a picture of them. And then some of the other pieces. They're very cute. I would maybe make a couple of them and just do them as needle turn. Some of these have some kind of complex shapes in them, but I think they're doable. I don't love raw edge fusible web stuff. I've done it. I've made many things like that, but it's not my favorite. Just for a number of reasons, but yeah, this to me, like, and again, I don't have every single issue of Quilters newsletter magazine, so this kind of stuff may have come up before, but this surprised me that we've got something that involves no sewing. This is definitely, like, I think a sign of the times. We're introducing more shortcuts into our sewing. There was, and I don't remember if it was this one or one of the 80s, the late 80s magazines, where I did notice somewhere where she said something about rotary cutters. So, again, rotary cutters came about in the late 80s. It was invented in like 1970 something, 1980 something in Japan. And, then it kind of made its journey into the quilting world by the mid to late 80s. So, again, that's one of those like time-saving things that we've got. But this was just interesting to me. And I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just surprised because this is the kind of thing that's more crafty than it is quilty. And, oh, this is interesting. So first of all, I will read this letter in a moment because it is like, what? But I wanted to show these. These were very, very interesting. These are the Magi, and made with a lot of metallic lame. And I can tell you, in 1995, I had just done a couple of textile projects using lame. It is a nightmare. And although I do still have some lame scraps in my stash that I have used for small things, like I recently did a sunbonnet Sioux block that had a metallic aspect of it that I did pull some silver lame out of my stash to use. But yeah, I do not love working with this tissue lame. It's a little bit easier to sew by hand, but it is slippery. You cut it and it frays like crazy, and all these little bits of crap come off of it. It's terrible. But it's quite striking, in this quilt. It gives it that opulence, that richness. This is a beautiful album quilt. Not necessarily holiday-ish, but let me read you this, I don't want to put it on the, I don't want, no spoilers. I'm going to leave that up so I can read this to you. Because I was like, what? Is this a real story? Okay. Dear Bonnie, my sister tells this story about an incident in the quilt club she belongs to, which has a secret pal program. Judy's secret pal didn't get her Christmas gift until the middle of January. Judy had made 12 applique quilt blocks and had them all wrapped and ready when her back went out and she got the flu. I mean, this is what happens to us around the holidays, right? She also had gotten gifts ready for a single mother and her child that she had adopted for the holiday. A friend came to get the single mother's presents and take them to the sponsoring agency. When Judy was able to get up and around, she found that the friend had taken her secret pal present along with the others. A couple of weeks later, the agency called. They had received a nice note from the single mother and her mother, named Sheila. The child's grandmother was surprised to find there was a Christmas present for her along with the gifts for the mother and child. Sheila wrote, "How did she know I was going to move in with my daughter?" Meaning she would have been there for Christmas. "How did she know I am a quilter? How did she know that applique is my favorite type of quilting? How did she know red is my favorite color? And how did she know roses are my favorite flower? Most of all, how did she know my name is Sheila?" Sheila was also the name of Judy's secret pal. Some things are meant to be. Can you guys believe that? Like, if you made that story up, it's unbelievable. But, I mean, we're going to assume this was not a made-up story, that people didn't do that then and write letters to quilting magazines with made-up stories. Today, Reddit is full of these made-up stories, but, yeah, I read this and I was like, what? This is the craziest story I've ever heard. But, like, I mean, just wild. I have no words. Okay. So these are a few more holiday type quilts. Oh, why am I? No. So this is Christmas stars. Lovely. You know, I think you can do a lot with just 3 colors and lots of scrappiness, and it looks really amazing. I would say from a distance, you've got kind of a little bit of pooling of color. So you've got this strip of these darker background right there, and then you've got one here and one here. So that's a little bit noticeable when you step back from this quilt. But otherwise, I think it's a really fun quilt to do. You know, these stars and the little pinwheels. And this is the Tribes of Israel, which again I thought was a very interesting. You know, it's not Hanukkah, but it's, you know, a Judaic quilt. That, you know, I think that would definitely be appreciated by somebody who is not a Christian and, you know, gets tired of the dreidel quilts for Hanukkah. So I thought that was interesting. And it's just really interesting imagery. I know what some of the names of the tribes are, but I don't know exactly how these images relate, you know, to the name of the tribe. So I know there is relation. I just don't know what it is. And last but not least, we have kaleidoscopic 11 snowfall. Guess who made this? This is another name you should remember, you should recognize. This is made by Paula Nadelstern. Paula pops up all kinds of surprising places with all kinds of surprising stuff. So, you know, we've looked at her kaleidoscope quilts and her fabric, and this is yet another one that you can see she's doing the kaleidoscope, you know, her quilting technique that she does, and how she cuts these things. We've looked at this before. It's really interesting. You know, this is 1995. This is, what, 30 years ago? And she is still doing kaleidoscopic quilts, and they have, you know, changed and just over the years. And it's so interesting to see her work from the 80s, where she made quilts that were nothing like this, and to the point where she starts picking up this kaleidoscopic technique, kind of becomes her signature. And she takes it, she just keeps like changing and adapting it. And it looks very different now, but you still see the beginnings here. And I just love this because I think that the kaleidoscope imagery lends itself very well to this snowflake look. So this one I think is so amazing, and I would love to have this quilt. It doesn't say, let's see. It doesn't say where this, but let me read you the little clip here. It says, Paula Nadelstern from the Bronx, New York, wanted to make a blue and white quilt for her kaleidoscopic series, which currently numbers 15 quilts. So she's only been at this for a little bit. Paula says that Snowfall was her attempt to translate into fabric a few of the more than 2,000 photo micrographs of snowflakes made by W.A. Bentley of Jericho, Vermont, and published by the American Meteorological Society in 1931. You've probably seen those pictures. I want to say that they're in like middle school and high school textbooks. When you study some of this stuff, where it's either earth science or possibly even geometry, like they kind of have this kind of stuff. The 60 by 64 inch quilt is machine pieced from more than 200 fabrics, including cottons, cotton blends, and silk. Snowfall has been accepted into Quilters Newsletter Magazine's American Quilters Showcase, which is part of the National Patchwork Association's Quilt Fairs of August 1995 exhibition. So that's the last one. And it looks like, I guess I did that in record time. And we don't really have any time to read anything else. Let me see, is there something here that, anything else I wanted to look at? Nah, I don't think so. I think that a couple of the things I wanted to read are a little bit too long to get into right now. But I will say that there's 2 articles here in the early one, this early issue, that I do want to read to you guys, because it's amazing to me that, we've got these, we've got stuff in these early newsletters. And I mean, not to say that, oh, it's because it's this kitchen table newsletter, it's not going to have anything good in it. Not true. But, knowing how famous some of these people became and how prolific they were. I mean, Sally Garrett, and this is, again, a full 11 years before she formed AQSG. She's researching and writing about English quilts, and for this 1973 issue. So the people that got interested in this early on and kind of, got in touch with Bonnie Lehman, followed Bonnie Lehman, they became the giants upon whose shoulders I stand today. So I think that it's, you cannot discount kitchen table newsletters, because they are an important aspect of, some of the media, and, not just quilting, but all kinds of different media. Well, you guys, I didn't say it at the top of the stream, but I will not be around next week. I am doing a sort of a crazy psycho trip where I have to be like 12 different places, and my mom has to deliver me different places and things. So it's going to be a crazy week. I'm going to be gone a full week from Friday to Friday. Not looking forward to being away from home, honestly, because I have a lot of things to do. My head is in 2026. I've been working on some projects that are coming to fruition early next year. So, anyway, at the risk of sounding like a Grinch, I will not be here next week. However, on Tuesday, you will see Quilt Nerding. Jill and I have a museum tour that we pre-recorded, and that will upload on next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So that there will be a little bit of entertainment for you if you follow me and Jill. Other than that, I will be back. Let me look at the date to be sure I'm saying the right date. I will be back on Monday the 29th. It's my mom's birthday that day. So yeah, and we will, it's the last few days of the year, or so we'll have to come up with something interesting for us to do on the 29th. Yeah. And one thing that I'll leave you with is if you guys think of anything, for 2026 that you would like to see me get into. I've played around with some different ideas of different ways that I could take this. Because I have a lot of research to do, and I like presenting it to you guys, but also I don't want to bore you with my research. So if there's, a topic that you've been interested in, let me know. And, I can dig in and see what I can find. I'm always interested in like new topics I can, look into. So Ad is getting ready to start in a second. So I'm going to say goodbye. And I will see you on the 29th. And I hope you all, if you celebrate Christmas, I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. And I will be back before the new year. But just in case you miss me on the 29th, I hope you have a very happy new year as well. Yeah. So we'll see you soon. Mwah! Bye.